Hi, you're listening to Redneck Theology, a program providing a common-sense look at Christianity. I'm your host, Bill Whitty. Questions or comments may be emailed to rednecktheology@gmail.com. Now, on with the broadcast. Today we'll continue our look at the topic of forgiveness, titled, Forgive and What? As mentioned in the end of our last broadcast, as humans we often present the argument we are not God. We are, however, made in His image and likeness. If we practice forgiveness, we must also make the choice to let the forgiven past die. The old things must remain dead and buried. We make the choice to let go of the anger, hurt, disappointment, feelings of abandonment, betrayal, or any of a host of other feelings the person's offense raises in us. Many refuse to take this step, stating they just can't get over how they feel. Our nature tells us we must experience the feelings we associate with having granted forgiveness before we can claim we have the capability of extending that forgiveness to the person or persons involved. It makes perfect sense. After all, we don't want to tell someone we forgive them and not be certain we can act accordingly. Although it seems logical and proper, God's way of doing things doesn't often match the human idea of the most effective and proper procedure. God already clued us into this when He said, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." If you care to look that up, that's in the 55th chapter of Isaiah, verses 8 and 9. God calls on us to trust Him to supply us the power we need to walk in the forgiveness we choose to give. We must make the conscious decision to forgive someone based on God's direction to do so, rather than our feelings. He doesn't direct us to forgive when we feel like it, but rather to forgive whenever asked and when needed, even if the offender never asked for it. Our choice to forgive allows the grace of God to move into action. The definition of grace tells us that when we receive it, we receive favor we were not deserving of. Once we choose to forgive, we must make the decision not to dwell on the offense. Anytime the memory of it comes to mind, we have to make that decision not to dwell on it. We speak to the thought and proclaim we forgave and chose not to dwell on it. The demonic powers will attempt to bring the offense to mind again. Having the memory cross your mind is in no way an indication that you failed in administering forgiveness or setting aside the offense. It means the enemy wants you to dwell on it, get upset, relive the circumstances, and keep the offense fresh in your mind. It demonstrates his fear of the freedom and peace you gain through granting forgiveness. Every time we dwell on someone's past offense, we go through a process of remembering it and reliving it all over again. The process of not choosing to think on the subject may need to be repeated over and over several times before it no longer represents a challenge. Even when we haven't thought about it for years, the enemy may attempt to remind us again. He and his minions are persistent. The more time that passes, however, the easier it becomes to quickly set aside the bothersome thoughts and to go on with our lives. For some, just exercising faith to make the decision to forgive presents a major milestone in maturing in their Christian walk. The phrase, "I forgive him, but I just can't forget," sets forth a statement of faith, which strengthens with each repetition. As mentioned earlier, we don't actually forget in terms of the normal definition of the word, but we choose to set aside the offense. Even with this knowledge in mind, when we state our inability or unwillingness to forget, we only reinforce our current attitude and feelings. And not only that, but we also weaken our desire to seriously consider forgiving while we justify ourselves. And we justify ourselves, of all people, to ourselves. When we forgive someone, we may never see an opportunity to let that person know we forgive them. We may no longer know how to contact the individual. The other person may not accept communication from us, or they could even be deceased. The inability to tell someone we forgive them in no way releases us from the need to extend forgiveness. It's been said failing to forgive someone is like taking poison and waiting on the other person to die. Holding a grudge against someone affects us more than them. People offend other people daily without even knowing they've done so. It may come as a complete surprise they upset us. In many instances, people we need to forgive know we were upset, but they already set aside the incident and forgot about it. When possible, we need to tell the people involved we forgive them. Now, if doing so seems likely to cause additional problems, we must exercise wisdom. In some cases, making no contact presents the smartest choice. Granting forgiveness is the main issue, regardless of whether we are able to contact that person or not. Clinical evidence exists to demonstrate unforgiveness lies at the base of many physical maladies. A few of the physical ailments include hypertension, ulcerative colitis, toxic goiters, stomach ulcers, muscle tension, joint pain, dizziness, tiredness, and fatigue. Resentment and or unforgiveness raises blood pressure, it depletes the immune system, makes you more easily depressed. Being more easily depressed causes stress to the body, and that causes people also to hold or gain weight. The combination of ailments brought on or magnified by unforgiveness also increase our susceptibility to heart attack or stroke. Forgiving others provides spiritual, emotional, physical, and psychological benefits to us. It's no wonder the book of Proverbs says, "A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones." Or like the way another version puts it, "A cheerful disposition is good for your health. Gloom and doom leave you bone tired." That's our program for today. I'm Bill Whitty, thanking you for listening to Redneck Theology. Your questions or comments may be emailed to rednecktheology@gmail.com. Please join me again for more Redneck Theology.